Welcome back to the Relentless Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Gerald Tabb, coming to you straight out of Detroit, Michigan. Let me give you a backstory. I'm a blue-collar worker turned full-time rideshare driver, and I started this podcast to build something real, a voice, a brand, a purpose. This show is all about pushing through the noise and staying locked in on what matters. Here on the Relentless Mindset, I share motivational stories, powerful perspectives, and the mindset that keeps me grinding every single day. You'll hear motivational narratives 7 days a week, along with real-life reflections, struggles, purpose, and how to keep moving forward no matter what. So buckle up and come along for the ride. This is the Relentless Mindset Podcast, where excuses go to die and the grind never stops. Let's get to work. Set in a brooding city of Gravenwood, a place where grudges are currency and the retaliation a hallowed tradition. The story delves into a tormented psyche of Marcus, a man recently humiliated in the most public and merciless manner by his rival, Silas. The aftermath of his downfall is a feverish, visceral experience. Marcus is haunted by the stench of failure and the searing memory of betrayal. Each day fueling a compulsion for revenge. He plots, he fantasizes. He aches to dismantle Silas's empire with the same meticulous skill he once used to build it. But as his anger threatens to consume him, transforming him into just another participant in Gravenwood's endless cycle of retributive ruin, a quieter, more persistent voice emerges. It asks Marcus to consider the cost of vengeance, not only to Silas, but to himself and the legacy he hopes to leave behind. Torn between the seductive power of revenge and the possibility of forging a different path, Marcus stands at a crossroads, wondering if true strength might lie not in destruction, but in restraint. This is a tale of pride, pain, and the harrowing choice between perpetuating a legacy of bitterness or daring to break free from it. The story promises an intimate exploration of a man's struggle with hate, the corrosive traditions of his city, and the fragile hope that forgiveness, even of oneself, might be possible. This story is called The Day I Chose Discipline Over Revenge. The acrid smell of stale coffee and the stale failure clung to him, not just on his clothes, but deep in his bones, leaching into his very marrow. The humiliation. It wasn't a memory. It was a living, pulsing thing. A second heart beating, a frantic, ugly rhythm in his chest. Silas. The name was a splinter under his nail, constantly reminding him. Public humiliation. The boardroom. The hushed gasp. The cold, calculating smile on Silas's face as he twisted the knife, revealing Marcus's private emasculation, blowing it up into a colossal failure, stripping him bare in front of the city's elite Gravenwood. This city, built on reputation and suspicion. Here, a grudge wasn't just a feeling, it was currency, retaliation, tradition. It was expected, demanded. His fist clenched, the knuckles white against the dark wood of his scarred desk. The desk he'd inherited from his father, who built his own small empire on sheer grit and a handshake. Grit, Marcus had plenty of that. Handshakes, he never trusted them again. Silas had taught him that, taught him a lesson. All right, a searing, unforgettable lesson. Kill him? No, don't kill him. Ruin him. Systematically, financially, socially. That's what Gravenwood called for. That's what his gut screamed for. The primal roar in his chest. A beast straining at the confines of his ribs. He could see it, taste it. The meticulous planning, the subtle whispers, the calculated leaks, the slow, agonizing dismantle of Silas's gleaming stolen empire. He knew just where the cracks were. He'd helped him build the damn thing, after all. He knew the vulnerabilities. He knew the skeletons. Oh, the skeletons. The anger was a physical entity, a searing heat that started in his stomach and burned its way up his throat, making his jaw ache. It was a pressure behind his eyes, a buzzing in his ears. It whispered, "He made you small. He made you a fool. Show them. Show him. Make him suffer. Make him fear." And it felt good, that anger. It felt powerful. It felt like the only way back from this abyss of shame. Hours bled into days, days into weeks. He moved through them in a haze. The world outside, a blurry backdrop to the inferno raging within. Sleep offered no escape. His dreams were vivid, cruel replays of betrayal, followed by elaborate, satisfying revenge fantasies. He'd wake up, heart pounding, the urge to act almost unbearable. Call the contacts, dig the dirt, exploit the weakness. The city itself seemed to hum with expectation. Every averted glance, every overly sympathetic nod, every knowing smirk implied the same question. When will Marcus strike? What will be his countermove? He felt the eyes on him, the silent assessments. In Greenwood, you either became the avenger or the cautionary tale. And Marcus, he wasn't the cautionary tale. Not yet. Not ever. But then, a quieter voice, a persistent whisper, almost drowned out by the roar of vengeance. Where did it come from? Perhaps the exhaustion, the relentless, soul-sapping exhaustion of perpetual rage. It was like carrying a lead weight, 24 hours a day. It was poisoning him, leaching the joy from simple things, making even the taste of his favorite coffee bitter. Is this it? Is this all you are now? A vessel for hate? The quiet voice was subtle, a counterpoint, not a direct challenge. It didn't deny the pain, the injustice. It just asked, and then what? Then what? He ruins Silas. Silas retaliates. The cycle continues. And Marcus, the man who prided himself on vision and innovation, becomes just another cog in Greenwood's grim, retaliatory machine. Just another man consumed by the very poison he sought to inflict. Was that a legacy? A trail of destruction, scorched earth, a mutual ruin? His father's face, etched in the lines of that old desk, seemed to stare back at him. His father, who built, who created, who left something behind more substantial than broken reputations. The thought hung, heavy and unbidden. What if? What if he didn't? What if he simply stopped? Stopped feeding the beast, starved it, channeled that furious energy elsewhere. It felt like surrender, weakness, and his pride recoiled from the idea like a burned child, coward. They'll think you're weak. Silas will win. But the quiet voice pressed. What is winning, truly? Winning the battle, losing yourself, or winning your soul, regardless of the foe? He sat there in the deepening twilight, the city lights beginning to prickle the sky outside his window, each one a tiny point of ambition, or possibly resentment. The choice. It wasn't about Silas anymore. It was about Marcus. What kind of man did he want to be? The man society expected him to be? A vengeful warlord in a pinstripe suit? Or something else? Something more? The idea is truly coalesced. Felt like blasphemy against the very nature of Greenwood. Discipline. Relentless, unyielding discipline. Not just not seeking revenge, but actively, rigorously transforming the rage into fuel. Not for destruction, but for construction, building, creating. Not a reputation of fear, but a legacy of purpose. It started small, almost imperceptibly. The first step was the hardest, acknowledging anger, not trying to suppress it, but observing it, like a raging fire. You don't try to douse it with a teacup. You respect its power, then learn to harness it, direct it. He started with his body, the gym, a place he'd neglected in years of corporate. Now it became sanctuary. His crucible, each rep, each bead of sweat was a release. The weights became Silas, became the shame, became the city's expectations, and he crushed them, not with anger, not really, with a cold, focused fury that transmuted into raw strength. The burning in his muscles, the catch in his breath. It was pain, yes, but controlled pain. Pain with purpose. He pushed past the limits he thought he had, discovering reserves he never knew existed. An hour a day, then two. It wasn't about aesthetics. It was about reclaiming control over his body, yes, but more importantly, over his mind. Then the silence. He found a mediation app. Scoffing at first, but desperate. 10 minutes, then 20. Just sitting, focusing on his breath. The flood of thoughts, the accusations, the scenarios of revenge, the self-pity, they still came. But he learned to watch them. Let them pass like clouds drifting across the sky. Not engaging, not feeding them, just observing. It was excruciating at first, a mental battle even fiercer than the physical one. But gradually, painstakingly, moments of genuine quiet began to stretch. A space opened up, a space where vision, not vengeance, could reside. And the sacrifice, oh, the sacrifice. It wasn't just giving up revenge. It was giving up the noise, the endless chatter of social engagements, the casual acquaintances, the self-destructive coping mechanisms he'd unknowingly adopted. The late nights, the excessive drinks, the endless scrolling through news feeds, secretly hoping to catch a glimpse of Silas's downfall. He cut it all out radically, severed ties with those who gossiped or subtly encouraged his darker impulses. He became a hermit, in a way, not out of isolation, but out of necessity, to create the void he needed to fill with something new. He went back to the drawing board, literally, old notebooks, half-forgotten ideas. The quiet voice, now stronger, clearer, pointed him towards a problem that had always bothered him about Greenwood: a trust deficit. Everyone was so busy watching their back, no one was truly collaborating. He'd always envisioned a platform, an ecosystem that fostered genuine partnership, transparent dealings, shared success, a utopia in a city of grudges, foolishness perhaps. But the rage, by now, was a manageable fire, providing heat, not consuming flame, and it fueled his focus. He started small, a single room, not a grand office. He coded, he designed, he iterated. The discipline he'd honed in the gym and meditation poured directly into his work. Every setback, every bug, every financial constraint became a new weight to lift, a new mental knot to untangle. He worked with a quiet ferocity, not born of resentment, but a deep, almost spiritual conviction. This wasn't just about making money. It was about proving a different way, building trust, creating value beyond profit. His legacy wouldn't be about conquering, it would be about connecting. He hired a handful of people, not based on their connections, but on their quiet passion, their integrity. People who, like him, seemed tired of the constant vigilance, the competitive backstabbing that defined Gravenwood's business landscape. Together, they built Nexus, a collaborative platform, secure, transparent, where reputations were built on actual contributions, not on who you knew or whose throat you stepped on. It was slow going at first. Trust was a rare commodity, but Marcus preserved. He spoke a little. He acted much. He led by example, radiating a quiet strength, an unshakable resolve that was subtle, magnetic. He didn't chase attention. He didn't seek the limelight. He just built, and Nexus grew organically, word of mouth. A strange thing happened. The city, accustomed to watching for the next skirmish, found itself watching something else entirely. A quiet revolution. Marcus, the man who was supposed to seek vengeance, was instead building bridges. The man who was humiliated was now elevating others. One evening, months, perhaps a year later, he was walking through one of the city's bustling districts. He saw Silas across the street. Silas, still sleek, still confident, but there was a flicker in his eyes, a restless energy that Marcus now recognized as the gnawing anxiety of a man who constantly watches his back. Silas saw him. Their eyes met. For a split second, the old rage tried to stir. Marcus felt a phantom ache in his jaw. Now, you could do it now. Just glance, a word, a phone call. But Marcus felt nothing but calm. There was no triumph, no desire for confrontation, just a quiet awareness. He had chosen a different path, and the path had changed him fundamentally. The beast was gone. or perhaps it had been domesticated, its raw power channeled into something productive. He offered Silas a small, almost imperceptible nod, not a dismissive, not triumphant, just acknowledging. Then he turned and continued walking, his pace steady, unhurried. He had a meeting to get to, new features for Nexus, a community outreach initiative. His legacy was not some grand monument, some towering skyscraper that screamed his name. It was the quiet hum of activity in the collaborative spaces Nexus had created. It was the newfound trust between business that, for the first time, saw each other as partners, not rivals. It was the ripple effect of integrity. He had rewritten history with violence, but with vision. He had defeated Silas. He had transcended him. He had taken the poison of betrayal, the fire of humiliation, and forged it into the steel of discipline. And in doing so, Marcus, the man who was supposed to be broken, had become unbreakable. Not because he couldn't be hurt, but because he knew how to heal, how to build, how to rise, without ever striking a single blow. The quiet voice, he realized, wasn't just restraint, it was liberation. And the story he'd written for himself in the sweat and silence and sacrifice was one of triumph, not over others, but over deepest, darkest parts of himself. A true win, finally. You've been listening to the Relentless Mindset Podcast, where we face the grind and keep moving forward. If today's episode hit home, subscribe, download, and share it with someone who needs that push. And if you've got a story worth telling, drop it in the comments. You might just hear it come to life in a future episode. This is Gerald Tab reminding you, we don't quit, we adjust, we adapt, we keep going. Until next time, stay relentless.